Hello, and thank you for joining Nicsa's Webinar Wednesday. My name is Natasha Bush-Postel. I'm the Webinar Program Manager, and on behalf of Nicsa, I'd like to welcome you to today's program. Today's webinar is titled AI Behind the Scenes, Advancing Back Office Operations. This program is sponsored by GFT. We thank them for their support and for bringing this valuable content to our members. Before we begin, I'd like to address a few housekeeping items. If you need assistance during today's program, please send an email to info@nicsa.org. To avoid connectivity issues, please make sure your VPN is disconnected during the session. If you have questions for our panelists, they can be typed into the Q&A box found at the bottom of your screen throughout the session. Nicsa is pleased to offer one continuing education credit for today's webinar. To receive CPE credit for this program, please make note of the 3 verification codes posted in the chat feature throughout the session and input them into the survey that will appear at the conclusion. You may also access this survey by navigating back to the webinar listing on the Nicsa website. Completing the survey will allow you to download a certificate of completion, which can be used to redeem CPE credit with NASPA and IWI. Lastly, this program, its content, and its speakers are off the record. Key takeaways can be gathered, but we ask that no one person or firm is attributed with specific quotes. Members of the press can be contacted at info@nicsa.org for any follow-up information. Thank you and enjoy today's program. At this time, I will turn it over to today's moderator, Eugene Klechevsky. Eugene is the Client Unit Director at GFT. Eugene?
Thanks, Natasha. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on AI and Fund Administration. Again, I'm Eugene Klechevsky, Client Unit Director on the Asset Plus team at GFT, and I will be your moderator. We have a great lineup of speakers. They're going to walk us through AI application, strategy, and governance in fund administration. Just before we begin, some housekeeping. Each speaker will have 10 minutes to present, and we'll reserve the last 10 minutes for audience Q&A. You can submit your questions via the Q&A chat, and I'll be directing them to the appropriate speaker. Let me introduce the speakers before we get started. Joining us today, we have Kaushal Sethi, who will kick us things off with a discussion on AI overall and in fund administration. Kaushal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Eugene. It's a real pleasure to be connected with all of you today. I'm a Chief Architect Officer for GFT, leading their capital markets, banking, technology, and AI practice. Yeah.
Great. That'll be followed by Mike Srdanovic, who will share some insights on AI strategy at Northern Trust. I believe you're on mute, Mike.
Take to apologize, the mute on there, sorry. Thank you, Eugene, and thanks everyone for joining today and having me on the show today. Yeah, so Mike Srdanovic, Chief AI Architect at the bank. I've been with the bank for roughly 20 years now, a little over 20 years. My primary responsibility is interfacing with business leaders and finding solutions to their needs through emerging technologies. And of course, as all of us are aware, right now, probably the biggest emerging technology on the scene right now is artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Followed by Christoph Krey, who will present some use cases at Citi.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Christoph Krey, and I work in the Global Client Service and Solutions Group, supporting global asset managers for JP Morgan Security Services. I've managed client service teams, operations teams, as well as technology and product teams with 20 years of experience in financial services. On a side note, I also have a band called My AI, where 25% of everything we do is generated with artificial intelligence. So looking to talk about as much back office artificial applications that we can come up with here for this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Christoph. And Brian Gauvain, who will close out the discussion on governance, controls, and transparency in AI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Gauvain from Citibank. I run the accounting operations and other daily operations for Citibank globally.
Thanks, Brian. With that, let's begin. You'll note also there'll be some polling questions that will come up throughout. Please feel free to participate. This will help facilitate our discussion as well. Kashul, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Natasha, so while the team kind of shares with us their view on the polling question, if we can just put up the presentation, please. Yeah. So we'll begin with first kind of getting a high level understanding of where the industry is today. Yeah, before I'll request you to first share your polling questions. And yeah, if Natasha, if you can share the screen, please, with the presentation. Thank you. Perfect. So, we have been at this revolution of, I would say, intelligence, and I call it as intelligence because it really brings big questions around what we call as actual intelligence versus artificial intelligence. Yeah, and we have been in this, I would say, wave. The first wave we saw over the last couple of decades, where machine learning was quite widely adopted across organizations, and then over the last, I would say, 2.5 years, with the advent of LLMs and general performance transformers, the GPTs, coming into play, and ChatGPT becoming one of the most widely used platforms. Really, we are now starting to see machine intelligence playing a key role in designing our applications and our architecture. Yeah, and really the shift has happened from what we call it as deep learning to deep reasoning, because now we can actually integrate not only models which could generally help us to get insights into complex data sets, but now those insights can be converted into inference and autonomous decision agents. So we are at this forefronts. Of course, in this first phase of machine intelligence, where the focus had been on building language models, designing kind of efficient prompts. Prompt engineering is also very important, but really the shift is happening from prompt engineering to problem solving. Yeah, and now as we evolve in this evolution from actual intelligence to, let's say, artificial intelligence, where we are adopting this at large scale across our organization, we also have another third stage, what we call it as deep imagination or machine consciousness. And probably we might have some other opportunities to deep dive into that. But the first indications of how we might get there is really what we have seen over the last few months around quantum computing. So definitely we are on that road of evolving our capabilities to leverage technology and compute at scale. And currently we are in this very interesting phase where we can really leverage this machine intelligence. And if you go to the next slide, into our large scale applications. However, there is a challenge, and that challenge is really how to do it at scale. So there are kind of three key components which every organization, every team, both on the business side and on the technology side, have to kind of solve. And that is really the cost equation. Yeah. How do I get my return on investment? How do we build this autonomous systems, leveraging both insights and intelligence? And there are three key parameters: data, compute, and continuous learning. So based on that, really it is very important for us now that we not only are focusing on building language models to really take advantage of all the knowledge base that we have accumulated, but we're also focusing on action models, which allow us to kind of really then build agent capabilities, which allows us to kind of build autonomous decision-making agents. But at the same time, we need to ensure that we can do this in a much more transparent environment. So bringing this together, building an explainable AI is part of this, I would say, challenge and the opportunity that we have in this phase of machine intelligence. So what we have seen and what we are currently working with our teams, both in terms of research and development, is focusing on bringing large language models, distill them into more small and specialized models adopted to our organization needs, and leverage them with action models, which is accumulating the experience in a very transparent and explainable way. Yeah, next slide, please. And based on that approach, like I know for every organization, they are in different journey. They are at different levels of adoption, and kind of we are looking at it from different dimensions. What we have seen with our customers is the two most biggest, I would say, opportunities that we have is in terms of value and cost. Now, in terms of building the strategy, the first step is to get the complete whole picture around our strategy and how to apply this different components of building this stack, or the intelligence stack as we call it, as across our organization. So within GFT, we have what we call as AIX framework, which we use, which is really kind of a building block approach to understanding what are the key components and where we really see opportunities in terms of creating value or optimizing the cost. And as we start in this journey at the first steps, a very common approach that we use internally and with our customers is to start building what we call it as a marketplace, both for AI and data, and start building this use case library, combining their journeys and modernizing their data platforms, which can be reused across the organization for different applications. And then at the same time, taking it to our customers and taking it or using it for enhancing our product and our services. But on the cost side, also, there is an opportunity in terms of product engineering and product development, how we can build the new generation of development platforms where we can take the products faster and more efficiently in terms of time to market and time to value. So this is how we try to bring this together and iterate this in terms of combining the strategy along with finding the best value use cases to build new product and services and experiences, and trying to optimize our product engineering approach. Yeah. And next slide, please, Natasha. And just now, this is not really like we don't see this in a siloed approach. We see this impact across the organization. So anywhere from the business, customer experience, architecture, to all the way to building end-to-end applications. So the way like we have built our internal teams is essentially to align with the experience and journey our customers will take, and that is where we are seeing the real value. So I think as we start this adoption process across our organizations, I would say the challenge is first to really find a model which cuts across our current structures, both in terms of governance and product building. And finally, I would say the talent also is very important. And that is basically the AI-centric approach that we are taking today, really to build this, I would say, the new generation of architecture and products. Yeah, thank you. And I'll hand it over to Mike.
Sorry, I got to make sure I go off mute again here. So thanks for that, Kaushal. Yeah. So Natasha, can we get that first slide up if you don't mind? I'm going to take it from there.
While we're getting the slide up, reminder, you can always ask questions in the chat and we'll respond to them towards the end.
So I'm going to pick up a little bit where Kaushal actually just left off now. And I think all of us are seeing this every day, no matter where we turn to. There's certainly a lot of hype with regards to artificial intelligence. I'm not quite sure how many of us have actually deployed or are actually using some of these capabilities. I hope most of us have been at least exposed to ChatGPT and some, what it can do, some of the features there. Copilots and some of the other tools being released by some of the big technology vendors as well. They're really starting to become ubiquitous in, I think, many organizations. And again, I think they're just now starting to emerge with more advanced features. What is, again, alluding to what Kaushal was referring to, what's going on in the various research firms and what's going on in the labs versus what's being actually delivered currently on most of our desktops that we can actually use. I think there's a big gap, and the progress in AI, I think, is absolutely accelerating at an absolute staggering pace. But what I did want to do today is focus on what I think are three key solutions, certainly use cases, particularly in back office or for most financial services firms that are here now. For those of you that are exposed to some of this, I think these are absolutely doable now. I know for a fact people are actually either building these or looking to service firms, et cetera, to help instantiate these. But these are, with current technology, forget about what's coming out of the labs, et cetera. These are practical, solutionable systems right now that I think are going to help many organizations. And what I want to do for the next couple of minutes is just walk everyone through what I think, as I said, are a couple of these right now. And I don't think the diagrams are going to put up there are going to scare too many people. I hope they're not, but I do want to kind of more or less walk through them all if you don't mind. Can we go to the next slide, Natasha? So this is the first solution, I think, that's very practical right now. As I mentioned, I know for a fact these are actually being implemented in various places. There are third-party vendors even providing these, but this is basically data entry. And my firm belief is that, with the technology that's here now and what's evolving very quickly, data entry is going to be a thing of the past. I don't know when that's going to happen in the next couple of years or not, or perhaps a little bit longer. But I do believe with AI advancing at the pace it is, the swivel chair operations that I think many of us have done, moving from one system to the other, are fast approaching their end of life. AI will be basically handling all of this data entry, looking at documents. And I just want to spend a minute just walking through this just to make sure everyone understands what what's depicted here. So on the left-hand side, if you're looking at the documents, you can have various different types of documents, legals, wills, NDAs, whatever the appropriate use case may be. AI will look at those documents, automatically classify them, and based on the classification, we'll know that, well, these named value entities are the entities that are being, or are of interest to be extracted automatically. That can be then routed up to the appropriate line of business, depending on the classification of the document. They can actually validate it, or once these systems are confident and can process the documents with a high degree of accuracy, this can also be straight through process and just automatically routed. But the idea is to route it up to the appropriate line of business. They can be QC'd there, or as I said, just completely straight through processed. That then would actually update the actual operational system of record for that document. And then what you can also do over to the right-hand side, as it's going through the AI system, as the documents are being examined, the AI can not only extract the name value entities that you're interested in, but it can actually mark up or enhance, create, if you will, metadata that's going to help long-term searching for documents, finding documents, or just overall indexing the documents, if you will. All of that can automatically get routed into some large corporate document archive, et cetera. Very practical. Very doable right now. And AI is absolutely doing this, as I said, in the immediate term. But again, a couple of key things. Data entry is going to soon be over. Leveraging the AI, the LLMs, to actually enhance the metadata of the documents itself, which will improve your system. And then actually putting the documents in a very taxonomy organized fashion with appropriate metadata in the back end, I think will go a long way to help along a lot of organizations. So a system that's very, very doable right now. If you don't mind going on to the next one, we'll just kind of explain the second system. And this one basically picks up where the previous one left off. And this is the same document archive. So once you're leveraging a document processing system like the previous one I described, the next logical thing to do, I think, for many an organization is to try to find or do document interrogation, information retrieval, if you will, based on those document archives. And traditionally, and I think many of us have heard of the, I hope they have, of the retrieval augmented generation, of this RAG pattern. It's very common out there. But in essence, what it's doing is leveraging LLM to interrogate the document archive, pull all the information, and make it available to anyone in the corporation, if you will, to actually just query in natural language terms a question. And just like we're seeing in many of the new online search engines, rather than just return a list of potential items or documents you can retrieve, it's actually looking for the answer. It's retrieving the answer with a reference where you can go back and validate it, if you will. But this particular pattern, very doable right now. A lot of vendors are actually rolling this out with a high degree of accuracy. And it's just getting better and more accurate as time progresses. So again, very simple, I don't want to say very simple, but very accurate system, and they're getting accurate, but very out of the box, if you will, by a number of vendors right now. But another, I think, high value use case for many back office systems and many organizations in general. And Natasha, if you don't mind, I'm just going to comment briefly on the last, but not probably least. So this is another use case, I think, that for those of you leveraging business analytics, vendors, et cetera, we're going to see more and more of this coming. But this is basically natural language query. So instant data query, and visualization of the data. So typically what we would, end up doing for business analysts or business users, they have to turn to a report team and ask them to generate reports out of big relational data warehouses, et cetera. And that takes time. The trend now, and again, very practical, can do this right now. There's systems being rolled out right now, is basically ask your question through just natural language, as depicted here. There's a semantic layer. There's a system, obviously, that needs to be built here on top of your relational database, leveraging generative AI, leveraging these LLMs that will accurately query that relational database for you, return the information, and visualize it per your more or less instructions or your prompts out there. There is a little bit of work to do on this one. There's this semantic layer that's really key, and this is a little bit of an operational overhead. But again, traditionally, many of us, when we've built relational databases, we don't have enough semantic information or description, a data dictionary, if you will, on the tables that actually in English describe the tables, describe the columns. This is something that needs to be maintained and put in place. But once that's done, this entire instant data query to data visualization becomes very practical. So again, just three things that I just wanted to raise. I think they're very applicable for back office and financial institutions. Available now, I think, and will only improve over time as much of the AI technology continues to improve.
Thanks, Mike. Those are some great insights. Now we're going to turn over to Christoph Krey. So he'll walk us through a real-world use case. So you've heard how to approach AI, and then how, from your firm level, how to really take AI down to your operational area. And Christoph will bring up a actual use case.
Yeah, and on the top of this, we do have 2 poll questions that will appear on your screen as well. And also, thanks, Mike, for going through a lot of the technical aspects of some of these use cases here that we are seeing productionalized across the industry. So I'm going to take a little bit of a step back to give some of the foundational concepts to these use cases and why they actually are in production today. So I'll start just kind of carrying on with Mike's first use case, which is document digitization. So largely in the industry, this is the #1 use case that we've been seeing. And actually, largely in my job, it's the #1 use case that we're seeing here across functions. So typical aspects of document digitization could help use cases in back office, like if you're receiving a PDF term sheet for a swap and you need to extract specific data points in there. You can extract them first in a more timely fashion, but essentially also can extract them with more accuracy than a human data input. Other use cases we've seen commonly is fax instructions. Believe it or not, we still receive fax instructions or email instructions, and extracting specific data points from those instructions are critical to move forward with the operational aspects. Additionally, other use cases would be tax form processing, or if you're working with a middle office provider that maybe their technology is not advanced to give, say, a Swift-like message for some trade instructions. So underlying that, there's a concept called structured versus unstructured data. So why this is important is the whole idea of document digitization is that we want to get our data into a structured format. So what essentially is structured versus unstructured? So structured data is organized and easily searchable. It's often stored in a database like a data lake or in spreadsheets with defined fields. While unstructured data really lacks that predefined formatting. It also includes things like text documents, image files, or audio files. So really kind of looking at what AI processes and models are being used to do document digitization successfully. So one that Mike talked about was natural language processing, or you could say NLMs or NLP. And really what natural language processing does is it understands, interprets, and generates human language. So a good example of that is if you did have a unstructured PDF document and you wanted to read the text that was in that document and apply that and convert it into, say, a CSV file or into a database. Additionally, you can use optical character recognition. So in the industry, the acronym is OCR, which essentially what that does is it converts an image to text. So why is that important? You may have a machine that you can scan documents into. That machine may then send a digital copy to your email. And when you receive that digital copy, it'll be in an image file. Why is that more complicated? Well, you would need to have really in conjunction with the optical character recognition, also use natural language processing on top of that to extract the individual details of that image. Also, as we all know, is if you're scanning documents multiple times, it loses some of its clarity, which you can also use artificial intelligence to increase. So one other concept that we do use with document digitization is the concept of human in the loop. So one principle that we use is, say, 2/3 administrative work, digitization work done by AI, and then 1/3 by a human, really a human analytical review, a human who can go through what it was manually as a proof of concept, but really get and push the AI model to get the mechanical aspects of this completely cleared and automated for use in a timely and accurate fashion. So this also leads into an AI use case lifecycle. So if you have a good idea and you want to know if it's supportable with an AI solution, there are a few steps here that you could use at a large organization or a small organization to really ensure that it's developed appropriately, it's tested appropriately, and it's also productionalized with a governance model. So I'll just start. First, you have the idea. You want to really have initial documentation. So really important that you start with a one-pager that goes through the idea, has the business case, the benefits, and then also what the phases would be to completion. And then also supporting that, have a workflow. So exactly what Mike showed in his slides previously, he had a workflow that shows the beginning state, the inception of the actual data input, all the way to the final output with the AI model in between as far as what it's computing. Second, you want to bring it to the table for feasibility. In feasibility, this is the first step of governance to understand with this actual solution using an artificial intelligence model, really is it usable for other use cases? Is it solving a problem for other departments? Additionally, with the review and preparation, you need to get approvals at this state to understand if you actually do have the right entitlements to apply an AI model. If it is going as data externally, is it private or public data? That's really what goes into the feasibility section. Next is development. Just like any tech project, you're going to implement into a test environment, then you're going to put it into a dev environment to develop any of the advancements to it. Also keep a human in the loop here, constantly reviewing the outputs and the logic behind the models and the data that's getting inputted. Then finally, it's ready for production. So simply releasing it into production, you want to make sure you have a good production support model with monitoring and maintenance and really understanding, are there ways we can make this faster? Accuracy always first. Generally speaking, we want to get to a 99% accuracy level, and then obviously creating a percent efficiency with timeliness. Disclaimers are very important, especially with external data and private data. Understanding if the AI is actually doing decision making for you. Is it changing core data? Is it changing core requirements for the operational process? Or is it essentially just analyzing data for you to get you to the answer faster? Next is scale. So during the feasibility phase, you're also trying to see if there's other use cases that might cross over or overlap with your AI use case. So obviously scaling that to your operations or back office organization. And then finally, this is really a unique instance here with intellectual property. You may create a product that might be sellable externally, or is something that creates business for your organization. You want to make sure you hold the intellectual property for that idea and that product that is created. Again, with the documents for preparation, I can't stress it enough. It's really great to have that one pager and the workflow. This may be something you're presenting to managers or other teams where the concept of using AI might be a new concept. So essentially having that documentation really assess the conversation and gets the project moving faster. Next is one of my favorite use cases is AI as a whiteboard. So you can see here I have a blank whiteboard behind me, and that's really because I'm using large language models today as my whiteboard. So how does this apply to a back office type role? So typically what I've seen in operations or a technology organization is really, if you look at an organizational chart, you can see these are massive organizations, but you can also see that there's a lot of direct reports. And when you're in an operations type role every single day, you're really kind of at a capacity and you're doing things in a repetitive motion and going through the processes. And when you add in semi-annual reviews, end of year performance reviews, it can be added work during that time, especially if your organization is very large. So one area where large language models are incredibly useful is with one-to-ones with your direct reports. So something that I do challenge with a lot of individuals that I work with is that if we have monthly one-to-ones, to make sure you have a one-pager document of that, and then keep saving those every single month. And then once you get to your semi-annual review, you now have 6 months of data that you can use for accomplishments, you can use for opportunities, any major projects that are in flight and in specific phases, and then put that into a large language model, which a large language model is really two things. It's part machine learning that can comprehend and generate human language text, but it can also work in conjunction with natural language processing AI. And essentially what we do here is we take those 6 months and say, hey, make an executive summary of this or put it in specific review categories, might be business results or clients and stakeholders. And it can create maybe 2/3 of what you actually want to say in that section, and you can add the extra 1/3. Therefore, it's saving time for you as the employee or you as the manager with many direct reports, where 2/3 of that review can be generated in a quite timely fashion. And then finally, just to extend that in the idea phase life cycle, it's also great to create your AI ideas by using a whiteboard methodology, putting it in a long language model, develop that business case, develop the benefits, and then also advance your idea using other AI strategies. So I'll pass it over to Brian, who's going to walk through some of the governance structure and many other topics.
Thanks, Christoph. So why don't we just start with the polling question? Give everyone a second. Okay, Natasha, I think can we bring up some of the answers? Great, thank you. So a bit of a mix here. So just to give folks visibility, what I've seen and what we're hearing from the street and from some of our clients is, our clients, their treasurers, their boards are starting to ask questions around how we are as an industry using AIs, and we as administrators are using AI. They want visibility and transparency into both how we're using and how we're controlling AI as it's becoming more and more popular in different aspects of our jobs. As you've seen some of the experts talk about how to incorporate that into our business and different business models. And Christoph really gave you a good details of how we as a fund services industry can put that really to work with different models in different parts of the organizations. So again, how as an industry are we going to use and control AI? I'm going to start off by just giving you, I was in a session with talking about Copilot, the product, the Microsoft Copilot. And the reason they named Copilot was they look at AI as the co-pilot. So to take that work that you don't want to focus on away from you so that you can actually focus on flying the plane, right? Actually do the critical things and take some of that unnecessary work off of your plate. So that's just something to look at, right? Now, where do we start and how do we start? So the feedback that I would give folks in the industry is start simple, right? We've seen things fail. I'm sure a lot of folks have seen chat bots, right? Some complex chat bots that you spend an hour with, right? And you have to start all over again. So my recommendation is start simple and build off that foundation. More about how we're using. So how I see AI is I see it as treating it as a person, right? Another employee of the company, and really need to detail out what is that person responsible for? What's their roles and responsibilities? How are we going to measure that person's performance? What are their goals, right? Really treating AI as a person or group of persons that we clearly have and can articulate to folks. What are they doing for us? How are they doing it? And how are we measuring what they're doing for us? So treating those as yet another employee, although automated, right? We are treating it as a person within the organization. And off of the back end of how, what we're hearing is how are you as an industry controlling AI, right? So as a funds industry, just a few things that I would like to share with you is, and my recommendation is documentation, right? Really keeping things well documented. As I mentioned before, roles and responsibilities, really detailed details around what is that AI doing? You know, what are the benefits, full roles and responsibilities. And we've all seen through our histories of like the evolution of macros and other Excel workbooks, right? People go off and create something, that's great. But that person then leaves the organization. And if that's not well documented, no one has a clue of what's going on in that space. And we've all seen that, right? So with AI, that sets the bar even higher, right? It's not just a macro, it's something going to the next level. And we need to make sure that we don't have these, what I would refer to as rogue and AI type of tools that are being created outside of a governance framework. One of the key things we need to make sure AI, it's auditable, right? That our auditors, our clients' auditors and regulators could walk into our organization and we could provide these firms with clear, auditable results, details of what it's doing, and really the backbone of what AI is doing for us. We should be able to communicate with our clients on how we're using AI, right? So again, what I think we're going to start hearing more and more from our clients is, where are you using it? What are you using it for? Can you share how you're using it? Because we will, as we progress as an industry and just evolution of technology, we'll start seeing more and more AI being built into our organizations and our processes. And then really, how do we measure, track, risk rate, potential liabilities, test, ring fence? There's a series of things we need to consider around AI, and really, how do we need to govern it? Really, we need to make sure that we have clear measurements of the AI. What is the task that it's performing? Is it high risk, low risk, right? As an organization, does your organization require different levels of, which most organizations are doing now at a corporate level, but at a more business level? How are you managing that risk? Testing it, and also making sure, how are you ring fencing and controlling it, that it's not duplicated, it's not someone's going off and utilizing it somewhere within our organization, or worst case scenario, taking it to their next organization and using it somewhere else. And finally, transparency, right? Really, we need to have AI be transparent, right? So that we as an organization and within each firms, you as in a management team, have transparency into what is AI doing for you, how does it benefit, and where where are the risk points and things that you should focus on and potentially do periodic reviews around AI. And that's really what I wanted to cover today, really just kind of give you an operational lens on how I view AI from an operations perspective.
Okay. Thanks so much, Brian. That was great. That really rounds things up, and it is something that's frequently overlooked, is the compliance aspect of this, and how do you manage it, especially for larger organizations that already mature with their compliance on the overall business. How do you incorporate AI and oversight to that, and also use AI as part of your compliance process? So some great thoughts there. We'll move into the Q&A session now. I'll start with some of the questions that are on the chat that have been answered. First one, Kasha, I'll just bring that one to you since you had answered it, is machine learning for years, and what is, and AI, what is the difference between machine learning and AI? If you want to just quickly summarize that, you had answered on the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we were just discussing this across those different layers. Like we have seen the different, I would say, dimensions and applications of this technology. Like machine learning initially was very focused on kind of trying to get insights in a very complex and large data sets. Yeah. And it was really in kind of an evolution of how we used to kind of create business intelligence around data, both inward looking from our internal processes and from our customers' perspective. But now AI is really kind of adding another layers. Like two key things, as I mentioned, was like really there's an interface, just like how our browsers, like with Netscape, we were able to interact and connect with internet, and it created a whole new economy. Similarly, in AI, artificial intelligence, now with natural language interaction through ChatGPT or Anthropic and co-pilots, we can really now interact with these intelligent models, have a conversation, give them feedback, and these models automatically learn by this interaction. And then this insights and learning is taken into kind of a more transparent way and a more broader way of kind of continuous learning, like as Mike showed us through RAG frameworks, and how we can really have transparency in terms of what is the source of information, how we are building this knowledge, and then apply that insights to intelligence into actions, like basically through agentic framework, yeah, which probably we haven't deep dived today at scale, but really agentic frameworks is really the next phase where we are building action models, which is nothing but experience trees. Yeah. So this capabilities were probably very limited when we were in the machine learning phase, but now we are really looking at intelligence, which we can have a conversation and we can really give them autonomous capabilities. So it's really a game-changing phase we are into right now. Yeah. I don't know if Mike, if you want to complement something, but this is what we have really seen at this stage.
Yeah, I guess if I was to say anything and just kind of distinguishing the two between where we are now in AI and, I'll just call it the traditional machine learning and traditional, systems we had in the past. Traditionally in the past, we've had machine learning, statistical analysis, various models that put in place. Those were all very, single output focused, if you will. They would, be built in place for a specific small team, very domain specific. I need to classify an image. I need to detect if this is a fraudulent or not fraudulent transaction. Does this belong to this category or this? Very small. With generative AI, back to Kajal's point, the big difference here is, we've built these huge large language models now that when we ask a question, we put a prompt into it, they can, quote unquote, literally understand semantically and meaningfully what we're requesting, and then generate responses back in text, in visualization, or whatever the case may be, whatever modality you want, that now a human can understand as well. We can get that feedback. And this is what's really been, I think, the big key driver, just from that simple kind of functional change and shift between traditional and where we are now with AI.
Thanks, Mike. Some more questions from the chat here. And I'll bring this one to you, Christoph. What products and services are you using as part of your solutions that you demonstrated? Which products are you leaning on for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a really good starting point is chat functionality and the supportability of coming on to a Zoom call or a Teams call, and how do I document what's been said, create follow-ups, in some cases create a presentation off of what's been discussed. And if I look at Zoom, you have what's called AI Companion. And AI Companion, essentially what it will do is, if you're on a Zoom call talking verbally or even communicating via chat in the Zoom call, it will document an entire detailed notation of what was said, who said it, what the follow-ups would be. And then if you're using a platform like Teams, Teams is a Microsoft platform, but they, as Brian mentioned earlier, they have a product called Copilot, which sits on top of all of your Microsoft Office applications. So just to kind of give a light life cycle of that, you could use Copilot, say for a meeting in Teams. It then notates everything that was said in that meeting, generates a summary of the follow-ups and takeaways. It can then take that and put that into an email for you that sends out to the invite list and attendees list of that meeting. Everybody's now aware of what was discussed, what the follow-ups are. You can also set trigger points or SLAs of when these follow-ups need to be accomplished. It can send follow-ups for you. And then finally, once everything's completed, you could package that into a presentation and say, well, yep, it's been 2 weeks now. We had an SLA of 2 weeks to get all of these things completed. Here's all the information, and you can put it into a PowerPoint presentation, which is another Microsoft application. So that kind of administrative aspects to that whole process, you're now saving a ton of time of integrating each part of this process. You're also getting a head start on how to create the presentation, so you don't have to kind of start from ground zero. And it's going to be completely end-to-end, all-inclusive of what was talked about. So it's definitely way more detailed than you could probably do if you were on a Zoom call or a Teams call. And nobody likes to be actually talking and answering questions and then also typing and focusing on an email at the same time. That sort of multitasking, it's really taken out of the mix because you have the AI working behind the scenes for you. So those are two great examples. If you work at a large firm, you may have proprietary examples created internally as well that do some of the similar functions, or might be an LLM type chat GPT model that you could use as well.
Thanks, Christoph. Moving on to just one of the other questions from Rachel. We have alternative investment statements, subscription info, capital call due dates that are non-standard. How successful is an AI PDF reader to categorize that information? I'll just take that one quickly, just based on some experience and solutions we're working on. AI is great around non-standard information because it's looking for data points versus a structured format, looking for data in a specific place or a specific cell on a spreadsheet. So it's not just PDFs, data can come in, or any of these information can come in on, PDFs, Word docs, Excels, PowerPoints, and you can train the models to look for the actual data. So even if 1 month you're getting an Excel and then the next month it's a PDF, it won't matter to the AI. It can differentiate between the two. And there are lots of ways to approach this depending on the use case and the process that it's sitting in. But it's a great tool to automate that and help with non-standard data. Anyone else on the panel have any thoughts on that or anything to add to that?
I guess I would add that, yes, I agree with you, Eugene, 100%. I think, with these latest technologies, Gen AI, especially vision capability as well, using LLM vision models, you're going to be able to be very successful processing those types of documents.
Yeah, and also just to complement, like with multimodal capabilities, as Mike said, we can also add on other data sources, non-structured, like we have videos, audio feeds, complementing it, and really we can build kind of what we call as a ground truth, integrating it. And I saw the question regarding the use cases or case studies, like for example, compliance. So for example, we can also combine the regulation, but then check a PDF or a document to see what we are constructing, whether it is complete and correct. So there are ways to really leverage these technologies, and they're very, very accurate at this stage.
Thank you. From Eduardo, and I'll direct this to you, Mike. what are the key roles or job functions emerging with AI? What does a typical team structure look like across, ideation, strategy, planning, and implementation? For your firm, how are you approaching that, and what roles, or are you repurposing people into these different roles?
So I think, of course, the key role is, I'm bucketing as "quote unquote" AI engineer, and it's really a blend. I mean, there's a little bit of practical application, classical app dev kind of role, as well as some data science. So it's a blended role. Data scientists, many of the data scientists now that virtually everything being developed, I don't want to say everything, but a lot of what's being developed now in a lot of these AI applications is Python code. And so the data scientists and a lot of people that have been in analytics with Python experience, they tend to fit those roles very, very quickly. But the classical role that I'm seeing right now, again, is really, it's a blend of individuals, we're calling them AI engineers, with infrastructure knowledge, classical DevOps, app stack kind of development stuff, and as well as a little bit of analytics. But those are really the roles. There's definitely a role for product manager within an organization. I think everyone needs a product manager to really understand and be the liaison between business as well as technology. Make sure you understand what the requirements are, limitations, and really put forth a practical strategy and determine where to invest, where not to invest, where it makes sense, where it doesn't make sense. Those are the ones I'm seeing, the big ones.
Yeah, and just to complement, I think there are kind of two dimensions to it, like AI native and AI enabled. So I think our dev teams are AI native, like they will really understand how to engineer these products. But I would say the complete organization have to be AI enabled. And I'm sure Christopher or Brian, I can give that perspective, because I think like every business function. So for example, here at GFT over the last, or let's say this quarter, every single person in our organization has gone through AI enablement training across different kind of technologies, both from the business perspective and day-to-day use perspective. Yeah, so then there is the AI native aspect. Yeah, so I don't know if Christopher or Brian, you want to just share your experience, how you have done this.
Yeah, there's a couple concepts here too as well. You have corporate-wide AI platforms that we'll be using that sort of go down to all the employees, but then you might have departmental specific AI applications as well, which may need specific roles, like a CDAO role, managing your underlying data for your inputs for your AI models, an organization, a project management team to also manage all of the use cases that are coming. And I will say they're coming at a high volume right now. I think if we were talking and having this session last year, a lot of the firms, when we were talking about it at conferences, it was almost sound like we were in the infancy of it. But I would say we're really far advanced now in the development of these use cases, getting them to production. But actually, from a back office perspective, I really think it's an add-on to the role that you may have. I mean, something that constantly comes through as a goal is to remediate any manual processes, or take down manual work by 30%. Whatever it is, Mike said a good thing about data entry. If you start seeing these trends still in your role, come up with that use case for AI, and you're now generating sort of a side project that will end up being one of your core projects for your operations role or your technology role. So, I'm in client service and solutions, which is not a technology role, and I've seen it as part of my role at least 30% on a daily basis today.
Thanks, Christoph. I don't know if you have any more questions, but I have a couple of just from the conversation. Mike, you had mentioned, moving on to data, which is really upstream from these AI tools, and how it's impacting, roles like data entry and other roles. What position and what should firms look at to get their data in a position to actually benefit from these AI solutions?
Yeah, so I think data governance is first and foremost that comes to mind now with AI opening up, not just the classical structured data, but even more so all the unstructured data. And that second diagram I was showing the RAG-based pattern. Even if you use RAG, for example, on that unstructured data where you've got a knowledge base or a large document repository, what AI will do is it will index that and it will give you the answer, regardless if it's factual or not. So typically in most organizations, we've had data governance, but it's always relied around, structured data. That needs to be applied now to unstructured documents as well in those repositories. They need to become very factual. The last thing you want, I think, is for AI assistants that are indexing those unstructured data, those document repositories, to come back with incorrect information. Someone needs to go back and correct it, especially if people are going to be acting on those. And then, as I mentioned, just getting back to the structured data as well, this whole natural language to data visualization, that is absolutely taking off. All the vendors are starting to do that. Once again, I think it's the attention to detail and making sure your structured data is well not only organized but commented, and you've got the appropriate data dictionary and semantic layer sitting on top. It'll go a long ways to helping organizations in the future.
Thanks, Mike. And that actually segues to my next question for Christoph, where on the poll, one of the I guess biggest concerns on those poll results was accuracy of AI outputs. So how do you address that and give users and consumers confidence in those results?
Yeah, I'm glad I saw that on the results, because it really is, it's accuracy over timeliness always. And the concept that we mentioned earlier, which was human in the loop. So really, as you're going through the testing aspects of this and also the development in your dev region, is you want to make sure that these are constantly getting reviewed in parallel with your proof of concept manual processes. So if artificial intelligence is making decisions for you, you do need to prove that out from an accuracy perspective, just like you would with any other service or product that you're disseminating data to either internal contributors or external recipients. So I think another way of doing this is making sure that when you have your governance set up, you have a great success criteria. So you go through and you say, this is what the output should be. Here are the benchmarks of the output, or here's what the accuracy would look like. Or a very common term would be ground truth. What's your ground truth for your output? And essentially making sure that you have something that you can reconcile to and know that it meets that success criteria, and you do not move to the next phase until that's met and approved by your governance committee.
Yeah, and just to jump in here, Eugene, just real quickly, it's not just testing, it's recertifying, right? So it's a life cycle, right? As you put something into place, as Mike talked about data, right? And I'll use the old adage, garbage in, garbage out, right? If data changes or something changes, you need to recertify, right? And that you should look to establish a program, not just to test and implement, but how frequent do you need to recertify? When do you how does that impact if something changes upstream? Does it need to be included in, for example, if you have like a system new release, how are some of the AI impacted? So you do need to make sure that there's a good program around it. And like I had talked about earlier, it's all about control, right? So Christoph is 150% correct that testing, but it's not just test it, forget it. It's test it, recertify it, make sure it's built into your overall release program.
Thanks, Brian. And that great way to close out. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thanks to the participants for your questions. And I'll turn it over to Natasha for some closing remarks.
Yes, thank you to our speakers for sharing your valuable perspectives, and a special thank you to GFT for sponsoring today's program, and to our listeners for joining today's webinar. A recording of this webinar will be made available on the Nicsa website in the upcoming days. On behalf of Nicsa, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next webinar Wednesday. This concludes today's session, and you may now disconnect.